documentary filmmaker and producer. He grew up in Israel, the son of German Jews. After completing his training as a documentary filmmaker in the USA, he moved to Germany. Throughout his career, Emanuel has produced over 240 films covering a diverse range of subjects. He is particularly recognized for his significant contributions to the Holocaust remembrance. Notably, he played an instrumental role in the establishment of January 27th as a day to honor the victims of the Holocaust in Germany, a commemoration that is gained international recognition as Holocaust Remembrance Day. He campaigned for this for over a year and a half, speaking with more than 200 politicians and civil activists, teachers, and clergy, until German President Roman Herzog officially designated January 27th as a Memorial Day on January 3rd, 1996. One of his notable works is the Oscar-nominated documentary, All Jews Out. That was in 1991. This film traces the story of the German Jewish Auerbach family from Gopingen, you'll have to help me on that pronunciation, Gopingen, Germany, from 1933 through 1945, utilizing rare archival footage and interviews. Other films he is known for include Station in 1985, Der letzte Zug in 2006. Emanuel continues to reside in Jerusalem, but now he's back in the United States. We're happy about that, where he explores the document's compelling narratives related to history, memory, and identity. Let's give a warm round of applause to Emanuel Rund.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. I'm a third time here. I spoke in the past twice here. It's always nice to be here. What I will tell you now is the collection of projects that I do now that started actually earlier, which is all part of my archive of almost 50 years that Graz College president is interested to have it, and in my collaboration with the college in working on the PhD, new program of PhD on the Holocaust. And in my background, it was always that I pushed for something, but I was very lucky often that people approached me, somehow they found me, and they asked me to do a project with them, for them. And so it started actually in Jerusalem. My father took me when I was 7-year-old to the Holocaust Museum, and he showed me the terrible things that one could see, like a piece of soap made of human fat, showed me the lamp shades made of human skins, showed me a jacket of a Nazi officer who made it from a Torah roll, used a Torah roll instead of cloth. And that when I was 7-year-old, and I felt later on that my father put me on the path of keeping the memory of the Holocaust alive. My father died when I was 10-year-old, and so he couldn't tell me more, but I always remember what he did. I always felt also, my father lost his wife, pregnant wife, to the Holocaust, and I always felt that it could have been me, the boy over there in Europe, and thank God that I wasn't. So I started very early. My mother, a widow with 3 kids, needed some extra help with funding to keep us all satisfied, to have food on the table. So already from the age of 10, I started to do babysitting. At the age of 13, I learned how to develop photos. I was a school photographer. At the age of 15, I was already, besides parallel to school, I was known as a photographer and I sold photos. When I was 16, I was a photojournalist. I also wrote the articles and sold them to the newspapers in Israel, Jerusalem Post and others. And then I became a recognition, 16-year-old, so that Rabbi Yonah Cohen, the editor of the Hatzofeh newspaper, commissioned me to be his parliamentarian correspondent, so that I would go to the Knesset, Parliament, sit down and hear everything that was discussed, write it down and take also the paper material. Then I would go to a small office in Jerusalem, and I'll sit there and work on a teleprinter and send my article to Tel Aviv, and the article would be there the next day. And something that we didn't deal with the issue of the Holocaust in Israel, except the Jewish Holocaust Memorial Day, Yom HaShoah, that in the school we will have a special event. But when I was 15, it was 1961, that the Israeli government brought Adolf Eichmann to Israel for a trial. And so as soon as it came, I ordered a radio transistor radio. So instead of sitting in the classroom, I went to the schoolyard hearing the court case. Then one day I said, why transistor? I just went to the courtroom, and I was among hundreds of survivors, the only little boy who was born after the war, and learning about all those stories of the survivors, and watching this, what shall I call him, Adolf Eichmann, sitting in the glass booth. So that was another push in my, so to say, education and interest in the Holocaust. Then later on, I had to be in the IDF, like everybody is being drafted. I was in intelligence units that helped the country in many ways. After the army, I got a call from Israel Radio. There was one major station in Israel. They wanted me to work there. So I worked for Israel Radio. And in May 1967, 3 weeks before the Six-Day War, there was the Israel Song Festival in Jerusalem, and I, working for the radio, was transmitting it and recording it. And that was a historical event, that in that festival, not part of the competition, Teddy Kollek, the mayor of Jerusalem, asked the organizers that he would like one young lady by the name of Shuli Natan to sing a song called Jerusalem of Gold. Avir arim tzalul kayayin vereach oranim. This song became, 3 weeks later was the Six-Day War, and this song became like the national anthem of Israel. And so that was my right, that I was able to record it and transmit it. I worked for the Israeli radio, 1967, and then came to me Professor Eliu Katz. He used to be at UPenn in economics, but the Israeli government commissioned him to start a television station in Israel. Since the Bible, we didn't have television. And so he started to organize TV station in Israel, first channel. He came to me at the Israeli radio and said, Emanuel, I heard great things about you, good worker, and I would like you to be in the founding team of our new Israeli television a year from now. So a year from then, 1968, I came to the new building of the Israeli television, actually old building, and I decided I would like to be a film director, since I dealt with photography from the age of 9. And but as a good German Jew starts from the top, from the bottom, I decided I would like first to be a film cameraman. the Israeli government organized for all the people. There were not television people in Israel. So the Israeli government had to order from overseas people who could teach us in every aspect of television production. And we got somebody who was actually during the Holocaust, he was in a resistance against the Nazis, but he was a filmmaker and he taught us how to make films. It was hands-on. They gave us the camera. He taught us a little bit of the theory. Then hands-on, go out and make a story. We filmed. We were about 15 in the course, in a group. And we all went to the parks, of course, and filmed families in the park. We came back and with our teacher, instructor, we watched everybody's rushes. And so he corrected everything. So the next day we were much better. And this took a few days and we became cameramen, camera women. There were also women in the group. And I started, and after 3 months, we started from dry run into a real broadcasting. So whatever we filmed was shown on Israeli television. So it was a beautiful situation for me as a little boy from Jerusalem who would go and interview Golda Meir in her kitchen cabinet, or will interview Moshe Dayan, minister on the Jordan River, or I would go with Israeli foreign minister Abba Even for 3 weeks in Africa as he met all the leaders, and we filmed it. And we made also a film about Israeli support to African countries in medicine, in agriculture, water, everything. And since I knew Arabic, I worked both in the Hebrew and the Arabic department. I knew Arabic because our parents, when we went to elementary school, thought that hopefully there'll be peace with the neighbors, and it would be good that we would know the language, Arabic. So from the 4th grade, we studied English, but also Arabic. So at the Israeli television, I worked in both departments. And it was really great to get to go all over the country, every kibbutz, every city, different stories. And then 1972, the Israeli television, again, they liked me, somebody liked me. There were always somebody who was liking me and commissioning me for something, if I didn't push myself. And they told me that the Israeli television, they sent me to New York to send reports from America to Jerusalem to the Israeli station. So we got there to New York and filming from the UN that was always anti-Israel and filming other things. And then suddenly I get a call from Mrs. Rudin. She organized for me to teach films at New Rochelle High School in New York, Riverdale, Westchester. So I taught there, and then I get a call from PBS in Charlotte, North Carolina, Channel 42, to come and do a program over there. I said, wow, beautiful. The little boy from Jerusalem is making progress. And what program? It was called Expressions in Black. My program was about black culture in America. And here I come, a guy from Jerusalem, but they knew that I can learn very quickly and pick up the material, and so I did that. And so all of that will go in my archive, and that Gratz College is interested. After half a year in Charlotte, North Carolina, with my rabbi over there in the synagogue, was a roommate of Bob Dylan. So he told me lots of interesting stories about Bob Dylan, which I later on, 2 years later, I also filmed in Nashville, Bob Dylan. But after half a year, I get a call from the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare in Washington, post-secondary education. They want me to go to Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee, next to Vanderbilt, and produce 50 films to improve bedside manner in America. A set of 50 films that will be put in every medical college to teach every medical student the physician-patient relationship with a male patient, female patient, the child, the poor patient, what does it mean to be a poor patient, the black patient, the homosexual, the transsexual, the rape victim, the abdominal exam, the gynecological exam. And since people knew that I'm very fast, where my friends make one film in 5 years, I made with my friend Jacob 50 films in 3 years. And so then the sets of films were put in every medical college. And so again, it was beautiful always to make progress. And I hope that I helped all Americans to get better handling from the doctors, more, as we say in Yiddish, mensch approach, to be a person, a nice person. I've done that. After 3 years, we finished the project, and I got a call from in Nashville. Okay, I made films for Yeshiva University Museum and Hadassah organization and Young Judea, Jewish organization, and then I get a call. It was 1976 from Jimmy Carter presidency campaign in the South, and they appointed me to shoot the political campaign for the candidate for the Senate from Tennessee, a friend of Al Gore, by the name of Jim Sasser. He was a lawyer in Nashville doing $100 for 1 hour working with his customers, and then he was supposed to be the senator, and they took me to shoot his campaign. So I think I did a pretty good job because he was elected to become the senator of Tennessee, Jim Sasser, and he was in Washington. He was in charge of the American budget. So can you imagine thinking that he's dealing with trillions of dollars? And I always said, please God, I hope he stays a good guy, not going to cheat or whatever, which he never did. He became then the ambassador in China, and after the Chinese crowds tried to approach his house, couple of millions, after we bombed in Yugoslavia the Chinese embassy, so the Chinese government sent a couple of million people on the American embassy in Peking, Beijing, and it was traumatic for him and his wife and daughter, and they came back to America. Anyhow, so that was, then one day I get a call from another Jimmy Carter from Georgia. He said, thank you, Emanuel, for doing the great campaign for Senator of Tennessee, and I would like to invite you, come and visit us in Georgia. So sure enough, I went to Georgia. I think it's Plains, Georgia, his town. I think it's Plains, Georgia, in his house. So I drove down there, and I'm coming. Outside I saw the truck with lots of beer cans, and Billy Beer, his brother, was standing there, and 2 rifles in the rack in the truck. And I entered, and so Jimmy Carter welcomed me. And there was a coffee table. On the coffee table there was a Bible. And Jimmy Carter was at the time born-again Christian, besides peanut farmer. And he believed in the Bible. And so I opened the Bible. I showed him hundreds of places in the Bible where Zion and Jerusalem are being mentioned as the place of the Jews. So I did a little political campaign myself by the president. Then a little anecdote that every place where I go in the world, I always have to know if there are Jews in that town, if there used to be Jews, if there used to be or still is synagogue, a cemetery. So I also asked Jimmy Carter, president, if there are Jews in that town. He said, well, for that, speak to Rosalind, she knows better. So I asked Rosalind, and she said, you know what, when I buy the suits for Jimmy, I always buy 12 pieces and I buy them from a Jewish guy in Americus, Georgia, next town. And then Jimmy tries them, and whatever we don't like, we bring it back to him. So she calls him, she said, there's a guy from Israel here, and he would ask you some questions. So of course he invited me for lunch. And this guy invited me for lunch and told me about the Jews in the South. And then, so that was 1976, and I came, that was still when I was in Nashville, but then 1980, I mean, the project of 50 films to improve bedside manner was very heavy. You deal with people's problems, psychological, psychiatric problems, different patients, and if it's a rape victim or homosexual, transsexual, so it pulled me down a bit. And I decided I would like to have some more fun with the project for a change. At that time, friends of mine in Hollywood called me. Again, I'm being invited for a job. Come to Hollywood, we need you to help us to make the feature films. So I went to Hollywood, we made beautiful, sweet feature films. But after about 3 films or so, I was praying in the morning, and then I was meditating, and then I thought that I didn't come to this world to entertain the world with feature films. And so I'm the only meshuga, only crazy guy in the history of Hollywood who left beautiful work, beautiful town, beautiful income, everything beautiful. I put it down and I went to the Upper West Side of New York to help Holocaust survivors, 1980, to open up and tell the story for many of them who didn't tell the story 35 years after the end of the war. Still, they kept the story. I knew that how heavy it is for them. I decided I'm going to help them. And so I went to 30 synagogues and yeshivas and met hundreds of survivors. And I told them that I would like to do something for them. I even didn't tell them exactly, but they trusted me. And so, meanwhile, also I was teaching films at Columbia University. I taught films at NYU, New York University, and I taught films at the School of Visual Arts, 3 major universities. And so for my project with the survivors, I got a room in City College, and I told the survivors we could meet over there at 2:30 Sunday, and I arranged them to sit in the circle, and I pulled back, but I started to hear themselves talking to each other. Auschwitz, Majdanek, Dachau, and Stalingrad, they start talking about their story. And the next 12 came. The next Sunday came 50. And the Sunday afterwards came 200 survivors. Then I put them in the aula of the university, but then I told them, don't tell your friends anymore. I don't know what to do with 1,000 survivors. And at that time, it was 1980. I worked also on 2 films with Professor Elie Wiesel in New York, the survivor of Auschwitz and Buchenwald, who wrote 54 books about the Holocaust. And we made with him 2 films. One of them was very interesting. His son Elisha was bar mitzvah at the time, 13-year-old. And so we took him to Spanish Harlem, to a school where the kids are really have very terrible life conditions, and they ask him questions very much related to his history. How is it to live without parents, without food, without money, without nothing? And he answered very nicely. And so at that time, 1980, I decided that I would like to make a film about the family Auerbacher from Queens, New York. who were from 1942 to 1945 in the camps. And so in 1985, I took them, 1988, I took them to Germany. And I made 3 films in their hometown and in the concentration camp Theresienstadt, where they were for 3 years. And then one of the 3 films was Oscar nominated. I was invited to Hollywood again, but this time with a film in hand. And I had to screen the film. The rules are, for the Oscars, you have to screen your film candidating for nomination. You have to have the film in 3 movie theaters in Los Angeles, each one week. And so the first evening, it was sold out. I mean, people didn't pay, but came thousands of people, and they all filled the movie theater. And I started rolling the film, and everybody was crying. First time that I screened a film, everybody, almost everybody in the movie theater crying. Many of them were themselves Holocaust survivors, or they lost families in the Holocaust. And then after I answered questions, I stood at the door to the movie theater to greet the people when they come out of the movie theater. Some of them fell on my shoulders, crying, red eyes, said, "Thank you, Emanuel, for speaking for us. You know that we cannot tell all those Holocaust stories." And so many of them gave me business cards or phone numbers, saying, "Emanuel, please call me. Let's talk on the phone. If you have time, let's have lunch or dinner." And I did all I couldn't. I went to see everybody. There was one little piece of paper with name of Leah Adler and the phone number and address. And I asked somebody from the Jewish community to drive me to this Adler. And there was a short woman like this, Leah Adler. She ran a restaurant, Milky Way. And she used to be a dancer, so she used to dance between the tables and ask Mr. Rosenbaum, "Is everything good? Do you need something else? Mrs. Cohen, do you need something?" And all the time dancing. When she finished that too, she sat down and we spoke, and she said, "My family came from Odessa over 100 years ago. We are not connected directly with the Holocaust." And then she says, "Well, my son makes also films." And she said, "Stevie this, Stevie that." I said, "You know, I used to work in Hollywood. I know half of Hollywood. I never met any director or producer, Stevie Adler." She said, "No, my son is Steven Spielberg." And I always fell off the chair. From this woman came this giant of a filmmaker. And then I told her that you have lots of nachas, you have lots of good positive response from your son. Every place where he puts his fingers is gold, but why didn't he make a Jewish film? Then she said, "You know, I know he read scripts, he read books." And then she poked me and she said, "Emanuel, I see Stevie this afternoon at 2:30, and I give him an ultimatum, you have to make a Jewish film." He made Schindler's List, and when he got the Oscar, he said, "I made this film because of my Shon, my mom." And I said, "Hallelujah, I made another one." And so that was, whenever I was in Germany, and I made a few films, I made them in German to educate the Germans about the Holocaust and about German Jews and revival of Israel. And so it was on television, screened all over Germany or Europe, but also I used to go to movie theaters, cinematheques, church communities, universities, and I would screen my films to the people. And every once in a while came to me young Germans from the crowd, 17-year-old, 25, and they would come to me and say, "You know, Mr. Rund, I suffer a lot. I know that my grandfather was served in the Nazi time. I'm not sure what he did, but every time I see a film about Auschwitz or read something, I look carefully to see if I see my grandfather there. And I realized that there are millions of young Germans, third generation, who suffer psychologically, and nobody in Germany helped them. They left them alone. And I used to be invited to many events of psychologists and psychiatrists in Germany, and I always mentioned it, but nobody picked it up to help this young German generation, so I decided I'll help them. The best thing for them, best healing, will be to hug Holocaust survivors. And the best friendly place would be in Israel. So I organized a group of young Germans, and I took them to Israel to go to Yad Vashem, to hug survivors in the kibbutz, in the city, the religious, the secular, everybody. And I made 6 films with this group. At some point, one of them, Karen, in Yad Vashem, on Holocaust Memorial Day, first time the Germans have been to the Yad Vashem on Holocaust Memorial Day, one of the young girls, women, Karen, said to the camera, I'm ashamed that in my country, where we are responsible for the Holocaust, we don't have a Memorial Day like the way you do, the Jews remember your victims. And I decided with this line, I'm going to create Germany to call for a Memorial Day to the Holocaust. Now in Germany, I made films from Sunday till Friday. Then I get, always people needed me for something, get a call from the Jewish center in Berlin, and they say, Emanuel, somebody snitched on you that you can serve as a rabbi cantor. And we have now 250,000 Russian Jews coming to Germany, and we need people to run religious services. And they asked me, where do you go this Friday? I said, I go to synagogue. Which one? I said, here in Munich, where I live with Rabbi Levinger. And they said, no, you don't go there. You go to a city on the French border called Saarbrücken. Please be there at 4 o'clock because you'll start the religious services at 6 o'clock. I couldn't say no. And from then on, I served in 15 Jewish communities in Germany as a rabbi cantor every Sabbath, every holiday, and funerals and weddings and everything. And then somebody else caught me. I say, oh, you're a rabbi cantor. I got somebody from the Christian Jewish Relations Board in Germany told me that they need me to be on the board because there are 6 people, 2 Jews, 2 Protestants, and 2 Catholics, and they have only 1 Jew, so they got me to be. And from then on, like 3 times a week, I would be invited to events in Germany where the chancellor took part, president, and all the top Germans. And once I was invited there, I came to them, and with little chutzpah that I have, I would approach the people and tell them, listen, I was filming with young people from your country, Germany and Israel, and I sometimes pointed j'accuse. I said that they are ashamed that you Germans don't have a memorial day to the Holocaust. Can you help me set up a day as a memorial day for the Holocaust? And I ask also for all the victims of the Nazis, social democrats, homosexuals, whoever. And I got 250 of the top people of Germany on my side pushing towards the president of Germany, Roman Herzog. And on the 3rd of January 1996, I get a call from the German president, Mr. Rund. We adopt your initiative, and I proclaim today the January 27th, it was 1996, as the Memorial Day for the victims of the Nazis. And then from then on, my day was commemorated in many, many countries all over Europe. They started also to have their own Memorial Day. And my friend Benny was Israeli ambassador to the UN, went to many of the events in France, in Greece, in many countries. And since he was Israeli ambassador to the UN, he went to Kofi Annan, the General Secretary of the UN, and he told me, listen, it's time that you should call a UN Memorial Day, International Memorial Day to the Holocaust, and from then on we have every 27th of January Memorial Days all over the world.
Wow.
And so that's more or less what everything that I have will be in my is in my archive, and everything that Graz would like to have me, whether only the archive, also faculty, because I can teach a lot about the Holocaust. And yeah, so again, from a little boy in Jerusalem who pushed as he can, but was lucky also to be appointed to different projects. I'm glad that I've made it. I'm glad that I left Hollywood. What would I do? Build a nice villa over there and nice films, but yeah, and anybody has some questions? Yeah.
Actually, my friend translated the song you were singing into Chinese. Actually, he's asking his students to sing it.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Just last week, I asked the teacher, because I'm running
Uh-huh.
Chinese online school.
Uh-huh.
So my teacher, I asked her to teach the students to sing the Jerusalem of Gold.
Right.
Yeah, I like that song very, very much.
You owe me a penny because every time you play it.
Any other questions?
I just can't help thinking it must have been a very interesting and fascinating experience to have Germans that you brought to Israel when there was a national goal of Germany at that time to get rid of all the Jews, and here Jews have had now their own country.
Right.
And for them to see that must have been something.
Yeah, so then I was invited by German president to Hamburg, 2,000 people in the theater, and he said, Mr. Rund, it's nice that somebody is doing something for our young German generation, and it must be you, a Jew from New York. So I said, yes, Mr. President, I did it gladly, and my family said used to do it also in Germany to help with soup kitchens and everything, but I didn't continue of what happened to them. So
You certainly had a fascinating career and a meaningful career.
yeah,
Bravo.
So Emanuel, first of all, thank you so much for a fascinating program. You've certainly had an unbelievable life so far, and I'm sure you're going to have more to accomplish. I have two gifts for you. One is a conventional one. This is a little gift. We're very pleased for you to have given your talk, a little token of our appreciation. The second gift I heard on the way over is that Mohammed Cynwyd, the architect of the October 7th massacre, has been eliminated. So that is my second gift. But thank you so much for your presentation.
the other half of my talk we'll do some other time.
Other half.